told you that an AI system successfully taking over like 40% of your daily tasks doesn't actually mean you're getting fired?
Right. Yeah, it sounds totally made up.
I mean, depending on exactly what you do for a living, that AI doing half your work might actually mean you are about to get a massive raise.
Which is, completely counterintuitive when you look at the current media landscape. I mean, we are constantly bombarded with these apocalyptic end-of-work headlines everywhere.
Oh, for sure. Every day it's a new panic.
Exactly. But the actual microeconomic data paints a picture that is, well, much more nuanced and, frankly, much more interesting than just a simple robot takeover.
Well, welcome to today's deep dive. It is Monday, May 4th, 2026. And for you listening right now, whether you're, commuting to the office, walking the dog, or maybe discreetly listening at your desk, we are stepping away from the panic today.
Definitely.
Today, we are tearing into a brand new, incredibly comprehensive analysis published by the Boston Consulting Group, or BCG. The report is titled, AI Will Reshape More Jobs Than It Replaces.
It's a heavy hitter for sure.
It really is. And our goal over the next few minutes is to figure out the actual mechanisms of how your specific career is going to change over the next 2 to 5 years. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, to get to the bottom of this, we really have to start by severing the link between two concepts that people mistakenly treat as the exact same thing.
Right.
And that's automating a task versus substituting a job. Because the data set BCG put together here is just staggering.
It's not just a small sample, right?
No, not at all. They didn't just survey a couple of tech firms in Silicon Valley. They modeled 165 million U.S. jobs.
Wow.
Yeah, breaking them down into 1,500 distinct roles. And they found that 43% of these jobs involve daily tasks that are at least 40% automatable right now, like under current AI capabilities.
See, when you drop a statistic like 43% of jobs are heavily automatable, the immediate instinct is to assume, well, half the country is getting a pink slip tomorrow.
Oh, totally. That's the panic response.
Right. But you're distinguishing between the task and the job itself. Like, think about a high-end commercial kitchen, right?
Okay, I like where this is going.
The invention of the industrial dishwasher completely automated a highly structured, repeatable task. Washing plates, scrubbing pots.
Right, the manual labor.
Exactly. But installing a dishwasher doesn't replace the executive chef. The machine automates the sanitation task, which actually it frees the chef up to focus entirely on developing the menu, balancing flavor profiles, managing the line.
The human element.
Right. The judgment-heavy, creative work that the machine literally cannot do.
That analogy gets right to the heart of it, honestly. The dishwasher acts as a tool of augmentation. And what's fascinating here is that the BCG report explores this difference between augmentation and substitution by looking at roles that are already heavily utilizing agentic AI.
Let's pause on that term for a second, because agentic AI gets thrown around a lot in tech circles lately.
It does, yeah.
For anyone who hasn't been deep in the weeds on the latest models, what actually makes an AI agentic compared to, the standard chatbots we were all playing with a couple of years ago?
Right, it really comes down to autonomy and action. So a standard chatbot is reactive. You ask it to write a poem, it writes a poem, and then it stops and waits for your next prompt.
It needs you to drive.
Exactly. But agentic AI is proactive. You give it a high-level goal, and it can independently plan the necessary steps, navigate different software applications, correct its own errors, and execute the entire workflow without needing you to hold its hand.
So it's more like a mini employee.
Yeah, exactly. It acts like a digital agent. So when we look at how these agentic systems impact the workforce, BCG separates the people who get augmented from the people who get substituted.
Okay, how do they draw that line?
Well, they contrast a call center representative with a software engineer.
Okay.
Both are sitting at computers, right?
Yeah.
And both are currently interacting with these advanced AI tools. But the fundamental nature of their output dictates their fate.
Meaning what they actually produce.
Right. A call center representative's core workflow involves highly structured, repeatable interactions. They are doing account lookups, explaining policies, running through scripted troubleshooting steps.
The routine stuff.
Exactly. So when an agentic AI system reaches the point where it can reliably navigate those internal databases and resolve those repeatable inquiries end-to-end, the company simply requires fewer human representatives.
Because the AI is successfully generating the core output of that role.
Precisely. The workflow basically splits. The AI takes the massive volume of first-line interactions, and a smaller team of humans handles the rare, really complex escalations. That is pure substitution.
Wow, okay. But what about the software engineer?
Right. Apply that same technology to the software engineer. Agentic AI can absolutely accelerate content generation. It can write boilerplate code, run testing sequences, spot bugs.
All the tedious parts of coding.
Yeah, but writing code is just one task within the job. The core value of an experienced engineer isn't just typing syntax, it's system design, it's architectural judgment.
Right, the big picture.
Exactly. It's sitting in a meeting with the marketing team, hearing a vague, contradictory business need, and translating that into a secure technical reality while, weighing server costs and performance trade-offs.
So the AI is essentially washing the dishes so the engineer can focus on the recipe.
You nailed it. It supercharges their ability to build. That is augmentation.
Wait, hold on though. Let me put my CEO hat on for a second here.
Oh,
Because if I'm running a company, I'm looking at that exact scenario differently. If this agentic AI supercharges my software engineers so they can architect, write, and test a new feature in half the time,
yeah.
my immediate thought isn't to celebrate. My immediate thought is, great, my team is twice as productive. I can fire half of them and get the exact same amount of work done for half the payroll cost.
Right.
Why wouldn't a company just do that?
I mean, it is the most logical assumption to make,
Right.
and it's the exact reason so many people are terrified right now.
Yeah.
But it fundamentally ignores a core economic principle that the BCG report heavily relies on.
Which?
It's known as the Jevons paradox.
The Jevons paradox. Okay, give us the historical context on that.
Yeah, so it goes back to an economist named William Stanley Jevons in the 1800s, right during the Industrial Revolution. Engineers had just invented a new, highly efficient steam engine that used way less coal than the older models.
Okay, so they made it cheaper to run.
Exactly. And everyone assumed that because the engines were so efficient, the overall consumption of coal in England would just plummet. They were doing the exact same math you just did with the software engineers.
Right. We need less coal to do the same work, so we'll obviously buy less coal.
But the exact opposite happened. Because steam power became so cheap and efficient, it suddenly became profitable to use steam engines in dozens of new industries where it was previously just, way too expensive.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the cost of the resource fell, so the total usage of that resource exploded. Coal consumption skyrocketed. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, BCG applies this to the modern labor market and calls it demand expandability.
Demand expandability. So
Mm.
if it's cheaper and faster to produce something, the market might just demand exponentially more of it.
Exactly. And software engineering is perhaps the ultimate modern example of expandable demand. I mean, companies do not have a fixed limit on the amount of software they want to build.
Yeah, there's always a new app to build.
Right. They have nearly infinite IT roadmaps. Every bank, hospital, retailer, they all want more digital products, smoother apps, better internal automation.
So when AI makes engineers twice as fast,
It effectively cuts the cost of software development. Companies don't fire the engineers. They realize they can finally afford to build all those projects that were just sitting on the back burner. They build way more software.
which perfectly explains why software engineering headcount actually continued to grow in the years immediately following the launch of ChatGPT, even though everyone was predicting a developer apocalypse.
Exactly. The demand for the output is essentially limitless.
Okay, but what about the call center?
Right. Compare that expandable demand to our call center example. Customer service represents what they call bounded demand. Making a customer service interaction incredibly cheap and fast to process doesn't magically compel your customers to call you more often.
No, definitely not. Nobody wakes up on a Saturday and thinks, you know what? The AI customer service bots at my cable provider are so efficient these days, I think I'll call them to dispute my bill just for the thrill of it.
Exactly. The volume of inbound calls is largely fixed. It's dictated by the size of the customer base and how often the product breaks, not by the efficiency of the call center.
Right.
So when AI makes handling those calls faster, the company's output doesn't expand. They don't need more calls. In that bounded scenario, the productivity gains translate directly into needing fewer workers.
Wow. So if you are listening to this right now and wondering if your job is safe, this is basically the whole ballgame.
It really is.
It's not just about whether an AI can draft your emails or aggregate your data. It's about looking at the core output of your daily work and asking yourself, does my company want to double its output of this, or is the demand for what I do capped?
That single variable bounded versus expandable demand is the engine driving the entire labor market transition right now. BCG mapped this dynamic across the U.S. economy and categorized every job into 6 specific disruption segments.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Instead of just running down a list, let's group these to understand the underlying mechanisms. Let's start by looking at the two extremes, the safest place you can be and the most vulnerable.
Sounds good. So the safest segment is what BCG calls amplified, making up about 5% of current U.S. jobs. This is the promised land.
5%, that's pretty small.
It is. But here, demand for the work expands and human judgment remains absolutely central to the value being created. Because productivity shoots up and demand rises, competition for top talent in this bucket will likely drive wages significantly higher.
Okay, give us an example.
The report highlights advisory lawyers here. Corporate law firms are using tools like Harvey AI to rapidly process legal research, analyze thousands of pages of case law, and draft standard contracts.
The grueling, time-consuming prep work.
Exactly. And because that becomes cheaper, the firm can take on a massive new volume of compliance and contract clients. But, and this is key, the AI cannot provide the final nuanced legal strategy or, negotiate the nuances of a merger in a boardroom.
Right, the senior legal judgment is human, and the demand for that judgment expands.
Precisely. Now, at the total opposite end of the spectrum, we have the substituted category. This accounts for roughly 12% of jobs.
The danger zone.
Yeah, this is where demand is firmly bounded and AI is highly capable of taking over the core tasks. Financial analysts who focus purely on data aggregation sit squarely in this bucket.
Because if your entire role consists of just pulling numbers from different regional databases, cleaning them up, and running a routine financial model for the monthly executive report, your demand is strictly bounded.
Right. The CFO only needs one monthly report. They don't want 50 reports just because you can generate them faster.
Exactly.
Once the agentic AI can independently retrieve the data and build the model, the company simply requires a smaller analytics team. The report predicts we could see 10 to 15% of total U.S. jobs eliminated over the next 5+ years purely from categories with these mechanics.
10 to 15%. That's massive. Okay, so those are the clear extremes, but the vast majority of the workforce sits in the messy middle, right? Where demand and automation collide in complicated ways.
Oh, very complicated. Take the rebalance segment, which covers about 14% of roles. In this bucket, the demand for the output is bounded, but rather than just firing people, the roles are redesigned upward to focus on higher value work.
I think content marketers are a great example of this rebalancing.
Oh, absolutely.
Because a marketing department has a finite budget, right? Their demand is bounded by how much money they have to spend on ads. Historically, you might have one junior marketer whose entire job was writing copy for social media and another who just drafted email newsletters.
Right, very siloed.
But AI can now handle that channel-specific drafting instantly. But rather than eliminating the marketers, the role rebalances. The marketer shifts from being a copywriter to becoming an omni-channel strategist, using the AI to run coordinated campaigns across every platform. They do less grunt work and more strategic directing.
Perfect example. Then you have the most complex category of all, which BCG calls divergent. This is another 12% of the market.
Divergent.
Yeah. In a divergent role, the routine tasks are highly substitutable, but the overall demand for the broader service is expandable. This creates a bizarre split reality within a single profession.
Yeah, the mechanism here is fascinating. Look at insurance sales agents. An agentic AI is incredibly good at the entry-level, top-of-funnel work, right? Qualifying inbound leads, answering basic questions, generating standard auto or renter's insurance quotes.
It automates the simple stuff, yeah.
But by drastically lowering the cost of acquiring and processing those basic leads, the insurance company suddenly unlocks a massive latent demand for complex, highly customized commercial insurance policies for mid-sized businesses.
Yeah, and that's where it diverges. The career path literally splits. The entry-level jobs doing the basic quoting vanish because the AI handles it. But the demand for senior, highly experienced human advisors to close those complex, nuanced deals actually skyrockets.
Unbelievable. We should quickly mention the final two categories just to round out the picture, though they are less dramatically impacted by software AI right now.
Right.
You have enabled roles, which is about 23%, where AI is a daily sidekick, but the core job is physical, like a clinical assistant taking your blood pressure while an AI ambiently writes the patient notes.
Yep.
And then limited exposure roles, the biggest group at 34%, like physical therapists or elementary school teachers, where the value is entirely rooted in human context and physical presence.
Right. Those physical and contextual roles make up over half the workforce and will see the least structural disruption.
Okay, I want to look back at the amplified bucket for a moment, the one we said was the safest. Software engineering was put in that bucket.
Yes, it was.
BCG's argument is that humans are permanently required for that higher level system design. But I'm reading the footnotes of this report, and I see a pretty massive caveat.
Yes.
Because the frontier AI labs, OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, are explicitly training their next generation of models to master complex systems thinking.
They are.
If we reach a point where an AI doesn't just write the code, but can actually sit in that marketing meeting, understand the vague business need, and autonomously architect the entire software system, doesn't software engineering fall out of the safe zone?
It absolutely does. And the BCG authors acknowledge that precariousness. If frontier models achieve autonomous architectural judgment, software engineering would likely crash straight from amplified down into divergent.
Meaning the same thing that happens to the insurance agents happens to the coders?
Precisely. You would see staggering churn. The routine coding tasks are already being automated. If the system's thinking is automated too, the middle layer of the profession just hollows out. You'd
Wow.
be left with a very small, elite population of highly senior engineering leaders who don't write code at all. They just orchestrate and govern massive autonomous AI development systems.
It's a sobering thought that even the safest knowledge work requires constant vigilance. But let's bring this down to the day-to-day reality. For the 50 to 55% of the workforce whose jobs are going to be reshaped, whether rebalanced, amplified, or divergent, the act of just going to work every day is going to feel completely different.
It really is. And this raises an important question about the hidden toll of this transition. It starts with a structural crisis that companies are going to face very soon.
Which is,
The disappearing on-ramp for early career talent.
oh, this is huge. Think back to the first professional job you ever had. How did you actually learn the business? You did the grunt work.
Yep, the tedious stuff.
You spent hours doing manual data entry, formatting slide decks, pulling reports, drafting basic client emails. It was tedious, but it was harmless. You made your beginner mistakes where the stakes were low, and through osmosis, you learned how the company functioned.
And that structured routine work is exactly what AI is automating away right now. Traditional junior jobs are shrinking.
Right.
This creates a massive paradox. Junior workers will no longer be doing the work to learn the ropes. Their entry-level job will suddenly consist of supervising AI outputs, reviewing machine-generated drafts, and managing complex exceptions that the AI couldn't figure out.
That's like asking a 22-year-old to be a managing editor at a magazine before they've ever written a basic article.
Exactly.
How do you review a complex financial model generated by an AI if you've never had to build one from scratch yourself?
You can't. And the report highlights that because of this dynamic, AI fluency is going to become more valuable than tenure. A recent graduate who knows how to rigorously test and prompt agentic AI might easily outpace a mid-level employee who insists on doing things the old way.
But the challenge isn't just for the juniors, right? The psychological and mental strain on the entire workforce is going to spike. We are looking at a massive increase in cognitive load.
Absolutely.
Explain the mechanism behind that cognitive load, because I think a lot of people assume AI doing the boring work means we all get to relax more.
Yeah, that's a common misconception. Think about the natural rhythm of your current workday. Most knowledge work roles naturally balance high-level thinking with low-level execution. You might spend 2 hours in an intense strategic brainstorming session, and then you spend an hour just formatting an Excel sheet or filing your expense reports. We tend to complain about the administrative work, but from a neurological perspective, that routine work provides cognitive downtime.
Your brain gets a break.
Exactly. You can listen to music, zone out a bit, and still be productive.
But if the AI completely strips away all the easy, repetitive administrative tasks,
You are left with nothing but the hard stuff. The human worker is left handling continuous, high-level problem-solving, strategic judgment, and complex exception handling for 8 uninterrupted hours.
oh wow, that sounds exhausting. The report is very clear that without deliberate intervention from management, employees are going to face catastrophic burnout. The skill threshold for just getting through a Tuesday is rising. You won't be able to coast on routine execution. Every hour will demand deep, domain-specific judgment.
Which puts an unbelievable amount of pressure on business leaders. Guiding a company through a workforce transition of this magnitude without breaking the psychology of your employees requires a very specific strategy.
So, what does this all mean? BCG outlines a playbook for CEOs, giving them 4 imperatives. But if you are listening to this right now, I don't want you to hear this as just corporate jargon. I want you to listen to these 4 points as a survival guide.
That's a great way to look at it.
These are the green flags and red flags you should be looking for at your own company to know if your leadership is setting you up for success or if you need to start updating your resume.
Right. So the first imperative is that leaders must embed their workforce strategy deeply into their competitive strategy. They cannot treat AI as just another software rollout led by the IT department. And most importantly, they cannot blindly copy peer layoffs.
That is a massive red flag. If your CEO sees a competitor cut 10% of their staff and immediately tries to match it to please Wall Street, without understanding the unique mix of bounded versus expandable work inside their own walls, they are going to accidentally gut their own institutional knowledge.
Totally. Which leads directly into the second imperative. Refocusing on redesign, not just cost reduction, is incredibly tempting for a leadership team to freeze hiring, let AI handle the overflow, and brag about the operational expenses they saved.
But if they do that, they are failing to capitalize on expandable demand. A smart leader, the green flag you are looking for, measures AI success by looking at higher revenue per employee.
Yes.
If your team is suddenly twice as productive, the goal shouldn't be to run a cheaper company. The goal is to redesign workflows so that your team can capture more market share, launch new product lines, or provide white-glove customer service that your competitors can't match.
Exactly. Now, imperative number 3 is placing upskilling at the very center of the operating model. And the crucial distinction here is that upskilling can no longer be a one-off event. It's not a Friday afternoon Zoom seminar on how to write a good chat prompt.
Because the frontier models are updating every 6 months, the capabilities keep shifting. If your company isn't providing continuous structured pathways for you to learn the newest systems, they are letting your skills depreciate.
So true. And the final imperative is arguably the most critical from a psychological standpoint. It's about shaping the narrative, and specifically why sequencing matters so much.
The behavioral economics of this part are fascinating. Walk through what happens if a CEO gets the sequence wrong.
Let's say a CEO wants to implement AI across the company. They start by looking at those substituted roles, maybe data entry or basic reporting, and immediately fire that department to secure a quick financial win.
Big mistake. Huge mistake. They just poison their own culture. They have created an atmosphere of pure terror. The remaining employees, the engineers, the marketers, the strategists whose jobs are supposed to be amplified or rebalanced, will look at the new AI systems and see an executioner.
Yeah.
They will actively resist adopting the tools. They will refuse to train the model.
I mean, why on earth would I help integrate the software that is actively hunting my coworkers?
Exactly the problem. Leaders must sequence their actions to clearly signal that AI is fundamentally about value creation and growth. Employees need to trust that if they lean into the discomfort of upskilling and adapt to the technology, there is a redesigned, higher value role waiting for them on the other side, even if their current daily tasks vanish.
If you take away anything from this deep dive today, it should be a sense of agency. Whether you manage a team of 50 or you are an individual contributor navigating your own career, you cannot afford to be passive.
Absolutely not. Do not wait for automation to happen to you. Audit your own desk. Identify the repetitive tasks that are inevitably going to be automated and start pushing your manager today to help you redesign your role toward that higher level judgment-based work.
The data makes it undeniable. This transition isn't a hypothetical future. The initial phases are already executing.
So to wrap up our analysis of this BCG report, we are not standing on the edge of a sudden overnight cliff of mass unemployment. This is not a Hollywood robot apocalypse.
Thankfully.
What we are actually facing is a highly compressed, intense, multi-year period of role reshaping. Over the next 2 to 3 years, over half of us are going to have to completely relearn how we execute our daily work, even if our job titles never change.
Yeah, the software tools are becoming autonomous, expectations for productivity are rising, and the cognitive stamina required to simply do our jobs is going to be tested like never before.
Which leaves me with one final thought for you to chew on as you get back to your day. We talked earlier about the disappearing entry-level on-ramp. If agentic AI completely removes all the routine, basic work where junior employees historically made their harmless mistakes and slowly developed their professional judgment, well, How do the experts of tomorrow actually learn to fly?
That is the million-dollar question.
Are modern corporations going to have to invest millions to invent literal flight simulators for desk jobs? Safe, artificial sandboxes where humans can practice making complex business decisions and failing, just so they have enough intuition to safely supervise the AI systems running the real company.
It is a profound structural challenge that the market has not even begun to price in.
It is going to be fascinating to watch unfold. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. As you head into your next meeting or tackle your next project today, take a hard look at the work in front of you and ask yourself the defining question of this new economy. Am I bounded or am I expandable?